Hello everyone, my name is Helen Spencer-Oatey from the Global People team at the University of Warwick. Welcome to this webinar on internationalisation in higher education. This is number 3 in our series, and today we're going to be looking at academic integration. We'll be looking first of all at why is integration important and what tools can probe integration. Then we'll be looking at some data to see how integrated different student groups can be and how we can plan strategically from this. And then finally on to next steps. So you may remember this cycle from an earlier webinar, the transformational learning cycle. And in that, we mentioned last time about the importance of stretch opportunities. And today we're going to be focusing particularly on the stretch opportunities that a diverse community of staff and students can offer. And we're going to be looking at the engagement of staff and students with that diversity. In other words, how far they are mixing and integrating with each other. Again, in the first one in this series, we mentioned the importance of integration, and we used this quote from the British Council, where they stress that integration is key. Integration of all students is an elemental factor in the expanding concept of internationalisation, not only due to immediate student outcomes of comprehensive learning and cultural awareness, but also due to long-term benefits for the individual, the institution, and the UK. In other words, integration is not just a matter of friendship for students, but is something to do with the quality of the educational and learning experience for all involved. So, what tools then can probe integration? I introduced to you last time in the number 2 webinar in this series that we have got the Global Education Profiler, the student version, and that has 2 constructs, social integration and academic integration. The staff version also has a construct integration and also identification, and that's to do with the integration, staff integration into the organisation. And then classroom composition is the other side, because obviously you need a diverse classroom in order to match that against students' viewpoints on academic integration. The Global Mobility Profiler, the student version, also has a construct integration, and that's very much integration into that local, culturally unfamiliar environment. And there's also a construct on adaptation support, how far they're getting support for that integration process. As I mentioned in the last webinar, all items are rated twice for integration. That means rated for importance to me and my actual experience. And those ratings are done on a 6-point Likert type scale. Last time I also introduced to you the matrix that we have, and now you can see an example of some data that we have collected. This comes from a sample of more than 10,000 students at a range of European universities, and it's for the construct academic integration from our GEP student survey. Now, first thing I think to notice from this, what a large amount of variation you can see amongst the responses. That's why we feel mean scores actually hide a lot of very important variation. The good news from this distribution, you can see if you look at the right-hand 2 quadrants, that's what is important to students. 81% regard academic integration as being important or very important. If you look at the top 2 quadrants, those ones with saying they've got high experience, we only have 45% who are saying that they've got high experience. That's leading to a gap of 36%. That, in a sense, is very worrying, because you can see there's a large amount of dissatisfaction. And if we looked at it the other way, you can see, look at the bottom half of the matrix, 39% are in the bottom right-hand quadrant. That's what almost between a third and a half of students are saying, this is important to me, but I am not experiencing it. That's a worryingly high level. Then you've got, look at the bottom left-hand quadrant, you've got 17% who are basically saying, this doesn't matter to me. I'm not experiencing it, but I don't care. And surely academic integration, every student should be concerned about. So there's a lot of work, we would say, that needs to be done here. If we break it down by home and non-home students, in a sense you see a similar pattern, but it seems that the home students attach slightly less importance to academic integration than the non-home ones, sort of understandable. They're also experiencing it less. So one way of breaking down the GEP data is by looking at different groupings. Here we've looked at home, non-home, but you might want to look at by subject area or by level of study, all kinds of different possibilities. But in terms of these particular findings, what we're saying is, what this data is showing, that students, both home and non-home, attribute, on the whole, great importance to academic integration. So that's a very good finding. It's only a relatively small number who say it's not important. A very large proportion, though, of both home and non-home students feel they are not experiencing it enough. So that's a worry and a cause for concern. So from a strategic planning point of view, we would want to follow up with this and ask questions like, that 56% that feel they are not experiencing enough academic integration, what are the hindrances that they're experiencing it? Can we find out more? 20% feel that academic integration is not actually important. What are the reasons for this? Now, perhaps what I should have said earlier, that after each section, students have the opportunity to add open comments. So one way of following up is actually to look at those open comments. Another way is to look at the individual items. So the data that I've given you is by construct. So you could check the individual items. You may also want to check whether any independent variables have a significant impact on the ratings, like is it different by discipline, is it different by nationality or geographical region, is it different by level of study, is there a gender difference? All kinds of ways in which you can follow up and get more detail. As I've mentioned, you can look at open comments, and you could do follow-up focus group interviews with staff and students. All of that will be important to gain insights into what the data is showing and what, if you're a manager, what you need to do to handle the situation better and plan strategically for it. Or if you're an academic member of staff, think through what it might mean for your own classroom. So, what about next steps? Do have a look at our website. If you go onto the website, you can see a dashboard with some of this data illustrated there. If you're interested in support materials, we have our Working in Groups e-course. Do take a look at our other webinars on internationalisation. You can see the topics there, and we've got other webinars too. Have a look on our website. Have a look at our resources as well, our publications, and you'll be able to follow up on any of these points. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat window now, or if you'd rather email us later, that's fine, or you think of a question later, you're very welcome to email us. Thanks again for listening.